I never imagined my archaeological expedition would lead me here, standing in the crystalline throne room of Valoria, a planet I'd discovered by accident when my research vessel malfunctioned near the Andromeda sector. The ceiling stretched impossibly high, carved from luminescent stone that pulsed with soft violet light. Thousands of Valorian citizens filled the vast chamber, their silver skin shimmering like moonlight on water. Queen Ravenna stood before me on the raised dais, and I couldn't breathe. She was nearly 7 feet tall, her body a perfect blend of strength and grace. Her long, platinum hair floated around her as if suspended in water, and her eyes, those impossible amber eyes with their vertical pupils, fixed on me with an intensity that made my knees weak. She wore ceremonial armor that hugged her curves, leaving her arms bare to reveal intricate bioluminescent markings that traced patterns down to her fingertips. "This is my husband," she declared, her voice resonating through the chamber like a song. The words hit me like a physical force. My translator implant worked perfectly, so there was no misunderstanding. Husband. She'd just called me her husband in front of her entire court. My mouth opened and closed uselessly. "I what?" "Your Majesty, I think there's been some mistake." She descended the steps with fluid grace, her eyes never leaving mine. The crowd fell into absolute silence. When she reached me, she raised one elegant hand and placed it against my chest. Even through my shirt, her touch sent electricity racing through my body. Her skin was warm, warmer than I expected, and I could feel a strange vibration emanating from her palm. "There is no mistake, Julian Reeves," she said, her accent turning my name into something exotic. "The Oracle Stone has spoken. The stars have aligned. You are the one my soul has been searching for across the cosmos." The court erupted. Some bowed deeply, pressing their foreheads to the polished floor. Others cheered, their voices creating a harmonious chorus that filled the air. A few looked skeptical, their expressions guarded. I tried to step back, but Ravenna's hand remained firmly against my chest. "Your Majesty, I barely know you. I've only been on your planet for 3 days. This is insane." Her smile was devastating, equal parts pride and playful mischief. Up close, I could see the faint patterns in her amber eyes, like galaxies spinning in miniature. Insane? Perhaps, but also inevitable. She leaned closer, her breath warm against my ear. "I've chosen Julian, and when a Valorian queen chooses, the universe itself bends to make it so." Ravenna led me through corridors of living crystal, her hand wrapped around mine with surprising gentleness. Her guards followed at a respectful distance, tall, imposing figures in dark armor. My heart hammered against my ribs as we walked, my mind still reeling from what had just happened. "Where are we going?" I managed to ask. "To the bonding chamber," she replied, glancing back at me with those mesmerizing eyes. "It is tradition. When a queen declares her mate, the bond must be explored." The word explored sent a shiver down my spine that had nothing to do with fear. She stopped before an enormous door carved with intertwining figures. With a gesture, it opened, revealing a chamber that took my breath away. The room was circular, dominated by a platform covered in what looked like silk but shimmered with its own inner light. Bioluminescent vines hung from the ceiling, casting everything in a soft, romantic glow. The air smelled of something sweet and intoxicating, like jasmine mixed with ozone. The door sealed behind us, and suddenly we were alone. Ravenna turned to face me fully, and in the intimate lighting, she was even more beautiful. The armor she wore seemed to respond to her emotions, the plates shifting and rearranging themselves. "You're afraid," she observed. "Wouldn't you be?" I countered. "You just upended my entire life." "Yes," she admitted, stepping closer. "But I also gave you a new one. A better one." Her hand reached up to cup my face, her palm warm against my cheek. "I know this seems sudden to you, Julian. Your species takes time to build connections, to develop feelings. But Valorians, we feel things differently. Deeper. The moment you stepped into my throne room, I felt it, a pull so strong it nearly brought me to my knees." "The Oracle Stone," I said, remembering her words. "What is that?" "An ancient artifact that reveals the truth of the soul," she explained, her thumb tracing my jawline. "It showed me you. Your face, your name, your essence. I have dreamed of you for months, Julian. And now you're here, real and solid in mine." The possessiveness in her voice should have alarmed me. Instead, it sent heat pooling in my lower stomach. "I don't understand how this works. Your culture, your customs." "Then let me teach you," she whispered, and before I could respond, her lips were on mine. The kiss was unlike anything I'd experienced. Her lips were soft but firm, and that strange vibration I'd felt from her touch intensified. It was as if electricity was passing between us, making every nerve ending in my body come alive. I gasped against her mouth, and she took the opportunity to deepen the kiss, her tongue sliding against mine. My hands, acting on instinct, found her waist. The armor was warm under my palms, almost like living skin. She made a sound, a purr that rumbled from deep in her chest, and pulled me closer. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ravenna's eyes had changed. The amber had brightened, now glowing with an inner light. The bioluminescent markings on her arms pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "You feel it now, don't you?" she asked, her voice husky. The connection. I did. It was impossible to deny. Something had shifted during that kiss, as if an invisible thread now connected us. I could sense her, not her thoughts exactly, but her emotions. Desire, yes, but also something deeper. Affection. Hope. A fierce protectiveness that would have been overwhelming if it wasn't so intoxicating. "What did you do to me?" I asked, not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity. "I initiated the first stage of the bond," she explained, guiding me toward the platform. We sat on its edge, her thigh pressing against mine. Valorian mates share more than just physical space. We share energy, emotion, life force. With each intimate moment, the bond strengthens until it becomes unbreakable. "Intimate moment," I repeated. "You mean?" "Yes," she confirmed, her hand finding mine again. "Physical intimacy accelerates the process. But Julian, I need you to understand, this bond cannot be forced. If your heart truly rejects me, it won't take hold. The Oracle Stone can show me my destiny, but you must choose to walk it with me." I looked at her, really looked at her. Beyond the otherworldly beauty, beyond the crown and the power, I saw something else. Vulnerability. She was a queen who could command armies, yet here she sat, waiting for my answer with barely concealed anxiety. "Why me?" I asked. "Of all the beings in the universe, why did the Oracle Stone choose a human archaeologist who crashed on your planet?" Ravenna smiled, and it transformed her face from regal to radiant. "Because you see beauty in ruins. You seek to understand rather than conquer. You cross the stars driven by curiosity and wonder, not greed or ambition." Her fingers intertwined with mine. "And because when you first saw me in that throne room, you didn't see a queen. You saw a woman." I felt it. She wasn't wrong. My first thought, before the shock set in, had been how graceful she looked, how her presence filled the space not with intimidation, but with a kind of magnetism I'd never encountered. "I'm not saying I understand all of this," I said slowly. "And I'm definitely not saying I'm ready to be anyone's husband just yet. But," I squeezed her hand, "I'd like to try, to understand, to see where this goes." The joy that lit up her face was worth any uncertainty I felt. 3 weeks had passed since Ravenna's declaration, and tonight was the formal coronation ceremony that would officially recognize me as her consort. I stood in my chambers, adjusting the ceremonial robes her attendants had prepared for me. The fabric was unlike anything on earth. It seemed to shift colors with my movements, from deep blue to silver to purple. Kale, Ravenna's brother and commander of her guard, leaned against the doorframe. We'd become unlikely friends over the past weeks. "Nervous?" he asked with a knowing smirk. "Terrified," I admitted. "Good. It means you understand the responsibility." He pushed off the frame and approached. "My sister has never been happier. I've known her my entire life, and I've never seen her glow the way she does when she speaks of you." The bond between Ravenna and me had grown stronger with each passing day. We'd spent hours together, she showing me her world, teaching me her language and customs, and me sharing stories of Earth, of humanity's struggles and triumphs. We'd kissed often, each time deepening the connection until I could sometimes sense her presence even in different parts of the palace. But we hadn't yet completed the bond. That would happen tonight, after the ceremony. The thought made my pulse race. The ceremony was magnificent. The throne room had been transformed with thousands of floating light orbs that responded to sound, creating a symphony of color as the Valorian choir sang. Ravenna stood on the dais in her full royal regalia, and the sight of her stole my breath. Her armor had been replaced by a flowing gown that seemed woven from starlight itself, and her hair was adorned with a crown of living crystal. When I knelt before her and she placed the consort circlet on my head, the crowd erupted in celebration. But all I could see were her eyes, shining with love and promise. "Rise, Julian Reeves," she said formally. "Rise as Prince Consort of Valoria, keeper of the royal heart, guardian of the celestial flame." I stood, and she kissed me. The crowd roared its approval, but the sound faded as the kiss deepened. The bond flared between us, stronger than ever, and I knew what was coming next. The celebration lasted hours, but finally, Ravenna and I retreated to the royal chambers, her chambers, which would now be ours. The suite was enormous, with walls that displayed the night sky of Valoria in real time. But the centerpiece was the bed, elevated on a platform and surrounded by those same bioluminescent vines that hung in the bonding chamber. Ravenna stood by the window, her back to me, silhouetted against the starlight. "Are you certain?" she asked softly. "Once we complete the bond, Julian, there's no going back. Our souls will be intertwined for the rest of our lives." I crossed the room and wrapped my arms around her from behind. She leaned into me with a sigh. "I'm certain," I said against her hair. "These past weeks with you have been the most alive I've ever felt. I choose this. I choose you." She turned in my arms, and the look in her eyes made my heart skip. "Then let me show you what it means to be loved by a queen." She kissed me with a hunger we'd been restraining for weeks. Her hands found the fastenings of my ceremonial robes, and within moments, the fabric pooled at our feet. My hands trembled as I helped her out of her gown, revealing the silvery perfection of her skin. The bioluminescent markings covered more of her body than I'd realized, tracing patterns across her shoulders, down her spine, along her hips. "You're beautiful," I breathed. "As are you, my love," she replied, running her hands over my chest. We moved to the bed, a tangle of limbs and whispered endearments. Her skin was impossibly soft, warm everywhere our bodies touched. When we finally joined, the bond erupted between us like a supernova. I could feel everything she felt, her pleasure, her love, her absolute certainty that we belonged together. And she could feel me, all my doubts and fears burning away in the face of what we were creating together. Time lost meaning. We explored each other with reverent hands and eager mouths, learning the geography of pleasure that was unique to us. Her responses were different from human women. The way she purred when I kissed her neck, how her markings brightened with her arousal, the musical sighs she made when I touched her in just the right way. And when we finally reached the peak together, the bond snapped fully into place. I could feel her in my mind now, not intrusively, but like a warm presence in a previously empty room. She was part of me, and I was part of her. Afterward, we lay tangled together, her head on my chest, our heartbeats synchronizing. "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly. "Not for a second," I replied, kissing the top of her head. "Though I should probably call Earth and explain why I'm not coming back." She laughed, the sound like bells. "They can visit. I'll arrange it. Your world should know their son has become a prince." I pulled her closer. "I thought my life was over when my ship crashed. Turns out, it was just beginning." "Our life," she corrected, tilting her face up to kiss me again. From this moment forward, my husband, we walked the stars together. And as I held my alien queen in my arms, feeling the steady pulse of our bond singing between us, I knew she was right. This was exactly where I was meant to be. One declaration, one moment, and suddenly my life and my heart belonged to an alien queen.